The crystalline chamber of the Galactic Tribunal stretched impossibly high, its walls pulsing with the bioluminescent signatures of 1,000 member species. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for this moment, the final judgment of humanity's last survivor. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the defendant's circle, her weathered uniform bearing the scars of humanity's final war. Around her, the tribunal's voices merged into a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and psychic emanations, all demanding justice for what they called the human plague. The Zephyrian High Judge, a towering insectoid with compound eyes that reflected the chamber's light like fractured diamonds, raised 4 arms for silence. The accused will hear the charges, it declared, its mandibles clicking in perfect galactic standard. Humanity stands accused of unprovoked aggression against 17 member worlds, the systematic destruction of 3 colony fleets, and the violation of 47 interspecies treaties. The evidence is overwhelming. The sentence has been predetermined: extinction. A ripple of satisfaction passed through the assembled delegates. The Korthak delegation, their scales shifting from blue to deep purple with pleasure, exchanged harmonious trills. The gaseous ethereals pulsed brighter in their containment suits. Even the normally stoic Vorthon delegation allowed their tentacles to sway in what passed for approval among their species. Sarah remained perfectly still, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes forward. She had listened to 3 days of testimony, speeches detailing humanity's crimes, evidence of their aggression, testimonials from survivors of human attacks. All of it true, all of it carefully presented without context. The defendant may speak her final words before sentence is carried out, the High Judge announced. The chamber fell expectant. They had waited for this moment, to hear the last human beg, to witness their final species break down in the face of cosmic justice. Some had traveled from the farthest reaches of the galaxy to see humanity's end. Sarah stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber, calm and steady. 300 years ago, when humanity first reached the stars, we were alone. We had spent millennia wondering if we were the only intelligent life in the universe. When we discovered you, all of you, we wept with joy. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the desperate plea they had expected. We came to you with open hands and open hearts. We shared our art, our music, our literature. We offered our friendship, our knowledge, our resources. Do you remember the human delegation to Zephyr Prime? They brought seeds from Earth, flowers that could grow in your methane-rich soil. They asked for nothing in return. The Zephyrian delegation's mandibles twitched. Several looked away. We established embassies on 47 worlds. We learned your languages, your customs. Human children grew up speaking Korthak as their first language. Human artists created sculptures that sang in ethereal frequency ranges. We intermarried with species whose biology allowed it. We adopted children from worlds where family meant something different than blood. Sarah's voice never wavered, never rose. She spoke as if discussing the weather. And then the harvester ships came. The chamber's temperature seemed to drop. Several delegates made sounds of distress, not at the memory being invoked, but at its mention. The devourers swept through the outer rim, consuming entire worlds, processing all organic matter into fuel for their endless journey. 17 colonies disappeared in 6 months. The galaxy's response was to withdraw, to establish defensive perimeters, to sacrifice the rim worlds to save the core. Sarah turned slowly, her gaze sweeping the assembly. Humanity asked for help. We begged you to stand with us. We had children on those rim worlds. Human, yes, but also Zephyrian human hybrids. Adopted Korthak younglings. Ethereal consciousness touched. We had families out there. The Vorthon delegation's tentacles had stopped swaying entirely. The Galactic Council voted. The decision was unanimous. The rim worlds were acceptable losses. Humanity's proposal for a joint defense fleet was rejected. Our offer to share our military technology was declined. Our request for evacuation assistance was denied. Sarah paused, letting the silence stretch. So we went alone. 73 human ships against a force that had consumed 100 worlds. We knew we would die. We knew we had no chance, but they were our children out there. All of them. Some delegates were no longer meeting her gaze. We fought for 18 months. We developed new weapons, new tactics. We learned to think like them, to predict their movements. We sacrificed ship after ship, life after life. And do you know what we discovered? The High Judge leaned forward despite itself. They could be stopped. They could be killed. All it took was someone willing to pay the price. Sarah's hands were steady as she gestured to the evidence displays surrounding her. Yes, we violated your treaties. We militarized civilian vessels. We conscripted every able-bodied human. We turned our entire species into a war machine. And yes, we were aggressive. When the Zephyrian fleet refused passage through their space, we went through them anyway. When the Korthak colonies wouldn't provide fuel, we took it. When the Ethereals tried to negotiate with the Devourers instead of fighting them, we destroyed their communication arrays. The accused continued calmly. We became everything you feared about humans. We became monsters, because the alternative was watching children die, while their guardians debated acceptable losses. The chamber was completely silent now. The bioluminescent walls had dimmed, as if the building itself was listening. We saved 43 worlds. We broke the Devourer fleet. We shattered their hive mind and sent the survivors fleeing back into dark space. And when it was over, when the threat was ended, you turned on us. The galaxy united for the first time in its history, united in fear of what humanity had become. Sarah spread her arms wide. So here I stand, the last human. You want to know if I have any final words? Here they are, we would do it again. Every choice, every violation, every act of aggression, we would repeat them all. Because when the next threat comes, and it will come, you'll need someone willing to pay the price you won't. You'll need someone willing to become the monster so you can remain innocent. She lowered her arms and stood straight. But we won't be here to save you a second time. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, the High Judge spoke, its voice barely a whisper. This tribunal is dismissed. As the delegates filed out in uncomfortable silence, none dared to look at the human woman standing alone in the defendant's circle. By the next morning, the execution order had been quietly rescinded. Sarah Chen was released without ceremony into a galaxy that would never again sleep quite as soundly, knowing that their guardians were gone, and knowing why they had needed guardians in the first place. She took a ship to the Rim worlds, where the monuments to humanity's sacrifice still stood, where flowers from Earth still bloomed in alien soil, where the few remaining humans tended gardens and remembered what they had been before the universe forced them to become something else. The galaxy was safe. The price had been paid. And in the deep spaces between the stars, something else stirred. Something that had been watching, waiting for the guardians to fall. But that would be a problem for another day.